So how do we as defense attorneys get the best possible deal for our clients? I'm touching on that in this video here. So in our previous video, we talked about plea bargaining and how DAs come up with their offers and what we do in response to those offers. We're diving a bit deeper in order to demonstrate how we can either get a case dismissed or get the best offer given the circumstances. Because obviously, the best case scenario is going to be getting a dismissal, right? And that's generally going to be done by demonstrating that the DA is not going to be able to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, or there's some sort of legal issue that should lead to a dismissal. But those honestly are going to be relatively few and far between. So usually we're focused on getting or making a better counteroffer in order to get the best possible result for our client. So let's dive into what that is. Where we start is with jury instructions, right? Because you're going to look at what your client is being charged with, and you look at the jury instructions in order to understand what the DA would have to prove if the case were to go to trial. So there's going to be elements to every offense, and the DA has to prove each and every one of those elements beyond a reasonable doubt in order for the defendant to be found guilty. So we need to look at what they need to prove, and by looking at the evidence, we can see whether they can prove that or not. So we get the jury instructions, and then we go through the police reports, we go through the witness statements, the photographs, videos, all the evidence, and then we're making these determinations. Part of that is also going over it with the client, because they are the ones who are able to provide their side of the story. And that's what helps us understand whether we're dealing with exaggeration, right? Is the alleged victim exaggerating the facts? Might there be misperception, right? So we've had cases where there was an eyewitness who said that they saw one thing, and perhaps camera footage negated what they thought they saw, right? So they really believed, like, they weren't lying, they really believed they saw one thing, but the reality is that was not the case. Actually, in one situation, we had an eyewitness who said that he saw my client slap his girlfriend. And the reality was the alleged victim said this didn't happen, and there was camera footage that indicated that this didn't happen either. But it wasn't that the witness was lying, they just really thought they saw my client slap his girlfriend. And so by being able to demonstrate that, that was inaccurate, then that led to a dismissal in that particular case. So you can have misperception, you can have lies as well. So we've talked in other videos about how perhaps an alleged victim, say in a domestic violence case, whether out of spite, out of anger, out of jealousy, makes up facts, which leads to the arrest of a person and criminal charges. So if we can expose the lies, then that could potentially lead to a dismissal or a better offer. There might be legal defenses. So did the police, when they were conducting their investigation, did they do a search without a warrant and no exception to the warrant requirement? If this happens, then that can lead to the defense filing a motion to suppress evidence. And if that motion is granted, then that would lead to a dismissal. Might there be a self-defense? So this is another legal defense. This could be an assault case or a homicide case where the person admits, yes, I punched the guy in the face, or yes, I shot the guy, but I was only doing so because I felt in fear of my safety. I was in imminent danger of bodily harm, and I felt like I needed to react in order to defend myself from that harm. So if that position were believed by a jury, then that's going to be an outright defense to the charge, resulting in an acquittal. So you have the interaction between the defense attorney and the client in order to uncover the facts and make sure that we understand exactly what's going on. One of the next steps is going to be conducting a defense investigation. So just as the police go and collect evidence that gets turned over to the DA, as part of building a case against you, having your defense investigator collect evidence that supports the defense can lead to either dismissal or a better offer. And so as you know, the police conduct investigation, collecting evidence in order to build a case against you. Well, your defense investigator will be collecting evidence to build your defense to try and get you out of the jam that you're in. A few years back, I defended a felony evading case where the police said that my client was intentionally evading them in order to, escape from getting pulled over. Me and my investigator, we went and drove the scene and we shot video, and we ultimately were able to determine that the police were either seriously mistaken as to the facts or they were straight up lying, because the way that they said that my client was trying to get away from them was physically impossible. It just could not have happened. That case should have led to a dismissal based on our investigation, but we had a really stubborn prosecutor and we had to go all the way to trial, and ultimately the jury, sided with us and acquitted my client. One of the other things is interviewing defense witnesses. So you can say, hey, I need you to have your investigator interview Mary, John, and Joseph. They're all going to be able to say that this didn't happen in the way that the alleged victim is saying it happened. And so if we can get those statements that negate what the alleged victim is saying, then that could potentially lead to a dismissal or, again, a better negotiated deal. The other thing would be having the investigator re-interview witnesses interviewed by the police. And sometimes the police either take an inaccurate report, they might be really pushy and pressuring the witnesses to say something that they didn't necessarily want to say, or they felt like the police were putting words in their mouth. You'd be surprised how many times we've had our investigator interview somebody that was already interviewed by the police and get a completely different statement from what the police got. And if we're able to say, hey, our report is a lot more accurate than what the police were able to get, and that's credible, then that can lead to a better result as well. So the defense investigation is a vital part of the defense strategy. Another really important element of the defense strategy is getting to know your client on an intimate level. And I know that might sound corny or cheesy, but the reality is it is one of the most important components of a defense strategy. We want to talk about your education. Do you have some sort of specialized knowledge? What about your work history? Have you been with the same company for over 10 years and you play a key role in your company? Have you been employee of the year 2 years straight? Who is under your care, right? You care for your children. Maybe you're actually caring for your brother's children. You adopted your brother's children and they need you in their lives. Maybe you're caring for elderly parents and one parent has dementia, the other parent has cancer, and their lives would be ruined if you had to be separated from them for a time because you had to go into custody. Good character goes a long way, right? Can we get a lot of letters of support saying how hardworking you are, how honest you are, how good of a heart that you have? All these good things that are going to counterbalance the information in the police report that, again, like I say, make you look like a monster, and they're just not an adequate reflection of who you really are. In your life, have you overcome some serious obstacles? Sometimes people grow up in abusive households. Did you have two parents that were drug addicts or abused alcohol, or you witnessed domestic violence and that negatively shaped your thought processes? That can have an impact on who we become as people. Might you have suffered past abuses? Might you have mental health issues, addiction issues? If we're able to address these issues and demonstrate that this is a one-off thing, it's never going to happen again, because for the first time in your life, you're actually addressing your addiction issues, or you're actually addressing your mental health issues or your trauma, that can really go a long ways in being able to negotiate a better deal. All of this takes significant time, effort, skill, and experience. It's as complex and as difficult as it sounds, and there's just no substitute for putting in this work in order to get the best possible result for your clients. And so that's why I say, we don't have a magic wand. It's not just, okay, you pay us however many thousands of dollars and we're just gonna make this case go away. No, you have to put in the work, and by putting in the work, that's going to get the best possible result in a criminal case. And really what this ends up doing is giving the DA a different perspective on the case, because all they have to go by is what's in the police reports. And oftentimes the police report just doesn't tell the whole story of what's happening, right? The DA doesn't have the luxury of sitting across the table from you and getting your side of the story. And that's why the defense attorney has to take the time to do so and to get to know you better in order to not only tell your side of the story, but also tell who you are as a person. And that combination is what gets you the best possible results. If we can demonstrate by virtue of what we've done during the defense strategy, if we can demonstrate that the DA is not going to be able to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt like they thought they could, right? Because they wouldn't have filed the case if they didn't think they could prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, they wouldn't have filed the case. So obviously they think they can prove their case, but if we now give them a new perspective that they're not going to, or they're going to have serious problems doing so, then that can lead to a dismissal. Or if it doesn't lead to a dismissal, perhaps the DA understands that the facts aren't quite as bad as they thought they were, right? So with the perspective that we're able to add, it doesn't quite look as bad, and so maybe they accept our counter offer, which is far more favorable than what their offer initially was. And also it might just come down to asking for a second chance. If we're able to demonstrate again that this is such an anomaly, this is something that was a one-off situation, it's never gonna happen again, the guy doesn't deserve to have the hammer come down on him, let him have a second chance to be able to prove that, hey, in 12, 18 months, if he has no same or similar offenses, then you'll agree to dismiss this case, or you'll agree to reduce his felony to a misdemeanor. Sometimes that's the argument that leads to the deal that's going to be the most favorable. So that's a little bit of insight on how we as defense attorneys get the best possible deal for our clients. If you got something out of this video, please show me some love and hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you turn on those notifications so you never miss a new video when it drops. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.